Nicely done. We are finally ready to deploy our application. And in order to set everything up, I'm going to use a continuous deployment with Netlify, which essentially just means that I'm going to have a GitHub repo. And then in order to build my project, I will connect it to the Netlify and the GitHub repo. So that way, every time I have any kind of changes, I can just push it up to a GitHub repo. And then, of course, Netlify will rebuild the site for me. Now, since it's somewhat advanced project, I already assume that you have the GitHub account and you know how to set up a repository as well as the basic commands. And that's why if you need to brush up on that, please do so, because I'm not going to cover things in great detail. More essentially, I want to create a new repo, and I'm going to call this React, and we're going to go with search GitHub users, something like that. And then once I create that new repository, what I would want is to grab these two things, these two commands for git remote and git push. And this one essentially just gets me to URL. So that way I know where is my remote URL. So I can just push it up to a GitHub. Now I'm going to navigate back to my project, and this is optional, but I'm going to first remove the old URL if there is any. So essentially, if you clone the project, it might be pointing back to a starter project. So in the Mac, the command would be rm, then flag rf, and then git. If you're using Windows, please just Google command how to remove a git folder altogether. So I'm doing that. And then, of course, I would want to initialize it as an empty git repository. And yes, as a side note, let me just repeat, this is optional. Technically, if you just download the project, you shouldn't have these problems where the remote URL shouldn't be pointing to my starter project. And once we initialize it, I'm just going to add everything to a staging area. We're going to do our commit, and I'm just going to call this initial commit because I'm just lazy. And then, of course, I'll copy and paste these two commands. So I copied them to the clipboard, copy and paste. Now we're pushing up this to a GitHub. And once that is done, we can refresh, of course, nicely. And there it is. This should be our project. And from here, we would want to navigate to Netlify. Again, if you haven't signed up for an account, please do so. It takes a few minutes, and they're not after your credit card. We log in. We go with new site from Git. And then we're looking for GitHub. Now I'm going to type here React. And then hopefully I'll try to remember the name. It was search, I believe. And then let's keep on waiting. There it is. And then, of course, we'll just build out our project. Now, one thing I want to mention that right away it will fail. And why it's going to fail? Well, if we brush our memory, we should remember that we should have the URL, the domain, correct, in our applications. So I'm going to navigate back to my applications. I'm going to look for the GitHub users because that was my app. And what I'm looking for is, of course, the domain. Because at the moment I have localhost 3000. So, of course, I'm going to go back right now to a Netlify. And we're going to look in the site settings. And I'm just going to rename it to some kind of meaningful name. Please keep in mind, of course, you can copy and paste this domain as well. But I'm just going to rename it so it makes a little bit more sense. So I'm going to go with React, search, GitHub, users, Netlify app. Let's save that. And now once I have my domain, I'm going to navigate back and site is not deployed. Okay. What we're looking for, of course, is the URL. So again, let me go back to the site settings. Sorry, I messed up a little bit where I would want to just copy and paste this. So let me copy that. Then I'm going to navigate back to my applications. And like I said, we want to copy and paste, and then we want to add a comma. Otherwise, it's going to fail. So let's add a comma in between. And now I'm just going to take both of them, remove my previous local host, and then copy and paste both of them together. Make sure that you save. Again, that is extremely important. Save changes. And now let's navigate back to our project. So cancel. Again, we're going here. This is our project. And let's see. So we're still building, which is actually really good. because this gave us time to set up our auth 0. And now notice this is the building process and all that. So this is where I'm saying that if you would have some kind of warning, then the build process might fail because they changed some things around in their setup. So that's why we do need to change the command. And now I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to resume it once our project is completely deployed. And once we see that the site is live, of course, I can just navigate back to my project. And there it is. I'm going to navigate here and then I'm just going to wait. Now, of course, I already logged in, so I'm just going to log out. Now I'm being kicked back to a login page. I'm going to go with a login. I'll try first with a typical email and the password. So we're going to go back to my John, log in. We're successfully logged in. Now I want to test it out whether I can go to a hello page. Yep, I can. And I can successfully navigate back and I'm still logged in. And now, of course, let's check some awesome developers. And there it is. We should have a info in a second. And of course we do. Now let's try one more. We're going to go with Wes Boss here. And again, we're loading right now. Remember, that was our spinner. And the moment we get the info, of course, we display the followers, the repos, and all that. And of course, in here, we can see how many requests we have. Now, the one thing that I would want to try out is how it works if I use the social connection. So I'm going to log in, only in this time with Twitter, and just so I can test it out whether I can navigate from page to page, and I have no issues. So / and then hello. Again, I'm being kicked back to an error page. Beautiful. And I'm still logged in. So once I logged out, of course, I'm going to be kicked back to a login page. This is our application, guys. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the project, and I hope to see you in the next project.